Hello everyone, my name is Eva Deverell and I am a writer at eadeverell.com and ladywritersleague.com. Today I wanted to do a workshop about Google Docs and how writers can use it both to write and also to engage your audience, build your audience, and work with your beta readers or with collaborators, and finally prepare your manuscript for publication. You can find this workflow that I've created on my website. If you go to eadeverell.com/Google Docs, you can find this really long blog post I wrote, and if you scroll all the way to the end, all the way down, then you will find this PDF that you can just click and it will open in a new window and you can work through this along with me. Now, I really just suggest this as a basis for your own workflow. There will be a lot of things that you need to change, that you need to add, that you need to work through differently probably, but I think this is a good basis to think about what you would need to include in your own workflow. And what I mean by workflow is really just the kind of actions that and the steps that you need to take to work with Google Docs as efficiently as you possibly can. So that's what I've tried to do in this worksheet that you see before you. Please do take a look at the blog post as well, because I kind of write an overview of all the benefits that I see, all the features that I really like about it. And I think you'll be surprised if you haven't especially used Google Docs recently. I think you'll be surprised by just how powerful it is and how many really cool features it has. It's really great because it's free, it's mobile, and it's cross-platform. It works in all the modern browsers that I'm aware of. And it doesn't matter if you're on Mac or if you're on Windows. Because it really, if you're collaborating on a document, it's always a problem. A, versioning the document is a huge headache, and then B, if you're using different kinds of software, then it's really difficult to collaborate on something because you get conflicts between different versions, and you don't know who is updating which version of a document and so on. And Google Docs really has a very elegant solution to that, I feel. It has 3 modes of kind of interacting with a document. Editing, which is basically, you have all complete control over the document. So if you're the owner of the document, then you can do anything you want. And then the second mode is suggesting, which actually just adds, you can make edits in a sense, but they're counted as suggestions. So it adds a kind of little suggestion bubble on the side. I'll show you that in a second. And then viewing, which is just for reading through a manuscript, or if you want to share it with someone, but you don't want comments or edits from them necessarily, then you would send them a link to view it. So I think it's a really, really elegant solution to this problem. And that's why I really, really recommend that you use it, especially if you're working with editors, if you're working with beta readers, proofreaders, and all that kind of thing. So here's my workflow, and I'm going to be going through this step by step and showing you as much as possible how to do these things. It's one thing reading it, but it's another thing, I think, to see someone do it. So I hope this will help. And I did get a couple of requests to do this, so I hope that this will be of benefit to you all. So I start with a little preparation section here, and the first thing I recommend is that you start a new folder for your project. So if you're working on a big project that you think will have several drafts, if you're going to bring in more material, because this is all living on your Google Drive, so you can put all kinds of things in that folder. You can upload all the documents that you want, and if you keep all of your Google documents relating to that project in one folder, I think it will really help you when you try to find things afterwards. So you can do that in 2 ways. You can open your Google Drive, you can create a new folder that way, or if you created, if you go to your Google Docs, you can create a new blank document, as I have here, and then you can either click this folder up here, which says Move to Folder, or you can go to File and Organize, and that will allow you to, in a second, choose whichever folder you'd like to put this document in, or you can create a new folder at the bottom here. So we've created a new document. What I recommend is that you create a new document to keep your notes separate, and then that you create a new document when you're ready to start writing your manuscript. But you might also want to create a template. If you find that you're writing the same kinds of things at the beginning of all of your documents, or if you find that you have styling preferences, that you keep having to repeat every time, then you might benefit from creating a template. And Google does have, if you read my blog post, I do go into it in a bit more detail there with links and everything. Google does have a template gallery that you can upload your own templates to. Unfortunately, it makes them all public, and it's not actually kind of synced with this template gallery that you get when you open Google Docs. So I'm assuming that's to come, but at the moment it's not terribly useful. So what I would recommend you do is that you create whatever styling preferences you have in one document, in a new document. So I have this Kindle template that I've created here, if I get rid of that. And you can download this on the blog post as well. I have it linked somewhere in here. But it basically just has, you know, styling options for the title and the headings and so on that you can use, so you don't keep repeating the same thing over and over again. And you're very welcome to download this if you are writing something for Kindle. I think it might help you a bit. It has a few little things. It's quite simple otherwise. But what I recommend is that you do this, you know, you make all the styling, layout, and so on options that you want in one blank document, and then you make a copy of it every time you want to reuse it. So save it in your Google Drive, maybe make a bookmark to it on your browser, and then all you have to do is go to File and make a copy, and then save it as whatever new project that you've started working on, and then you just click OK. Okay, so that's one way to do templates. I think that's probably the best way at the moment. And then the next thing I say is decide on your naming convention. So what I mean by this is, you know, as we just saw, when you go to create a new document, you know, you make a copy, for example, or you name your document up here, then you might want to give it, you know, your story title, and then dash first draft, and then I really recommend that you put the date on here as well, because we all have a tendency, I think, to say, oh, okay, this is the final draft I'm doing of this, and then you end up going, final 2B, final 2C, final 2D, and then you forget which is the final draft. And part of that is that you need to be aware of whether you're making your changes on the original document or whether you're making your changes on the subsequent copies of that document that you make. So what do I mean by that? I recommend throughout that you work in distinct drafts, because this really helps you go through your entire manuscript several times, so that you don't just keep updating the first or editing the first part of your manuscript over and over again without having, you know, a run through of the whole thing. But I recommend when you do start another draft that you make a copy of the previous draft for later reference. You know, you really want to keep that intact. And at the moment, Google Docs, it does keep every single revision you make. I mean, every single keystroke it saves. But the thing is that it doesn't let you group them under a kind of title. So if it lets you group a whole bunch of revisions and call it first draft, then you'd be set. You wouldn't have to worry about all of this at all. But because it doesn't do that, I feel like you need to do something to save each of your drafts in case you want to refer back to it to see what it was like at the beginning, or, you know, you want to see what kinds of changes you made and that kind of thing. So that's why I recommend doing that. But you really need to remember then whether you're making your subsequent edits on this original document that you created, or whether you're going to start working on the next draft on the copy that you made. Now, I would recommend working on the original document, because I've noticed that when you do make a copy, I was trying out the meta tags, your comments here don't get transferred to the copy that you make, okay? So if you have a lot of comments in your document, especially from beta readers or from yourself, as I have here, then they won't be copied, and you might not remember that you need to still deal with these comments. So I would recommend continuing to work on the original document. Having said that, I haven't tried it with something really long that has a lot of revisions and a lot of comments. I don't know if that would make if it would make Google Docs lag at all, if it would make it slower. So you will have to test that out for yourself and see how it works. I've only worked really on kind of longer short stories and that kind of thing. I have copied in long text into Google Docs, and that wasn't a problem at all. But if you do have a lot of revisions, I don't know if that slows down the software at all. So those are some of my recommendations. Decide if you'll work in the original document or in a draft copy. And you saw that I was searching for things there, and that is because I also recommend, if you find it useful, of course, that you create a metadata convention. And I was thinking that it would be possible to do this with hashtags, but I realized that actually Google doesn't let you, or it doesn't distinguish hashtags. So if you put hashtag steampunk, then it just searches for steampunk. It'll just ignore the hashtag or any other thing that you put there. So what I came up with was something like writing in meta-steampunk, for example. So actually putting a word before it, separated by a dash, for example. If you do want to create some kind of convention that allows you to tag things or put in other kinds of data, I don't know what you might want to do. But the reason I think it could be handy is because Google Docs has this wonderful feature you can find under Tools and Research. It'll open up this research sidebar here, and if you select personal here, then it allows you to search within your personal document. So if I were to search for meta-steampunk for my steampunk stories, for example, I could find it here. I can click this for a quick preview of my story, which comes up here. Oh, I can even select text. That's amazing. Or I can cite it, or I can insert a link to it, or I can click it to open it in another window. So that is just so super handy. You can use that in so many different ways. I leave that up to you, but I think it's really, really cool. So that's what that is all about. If you're interested, if you find it useful, what is your metadata convention? You can write that in that blank space there. And then decide on a backup routine. So I kind of suggest down here that when you do make a copy of your draft, that you download it as a Word document. Now, Google Docs will save all of your edits to Google Drive automatically, and you can even work offline if you download the extension, I think, for Chrome. You can work offline and then have it sync to your Google Drive whenever you're back online. But don't trust it. Just make sure you have backups everywhere in case something goes wrong. Things always go wrong. So have backups of your precious documents. The reason I recommend saving it as a Microsoft Word document is because this preserves all of the comments. So if you have comments, as I do in this document, for example, then it will also export this comment, which I might want to keep. And the way you do that is simply you go to File, and then you go down to Download As, and you select Microsoft Word. You can see there are loads of different formats as well. The web page HTML format will also preserve comments, but it's not quite as pretty. It puts them almost like footnotes that you can click on, and then it has the comment at the bottom. So it's still useful, but it's not as pretty as if you download it as a Word file. And I'm on a Mac, so I don't actually have Word, but I do have Pages, which was able to open the Word documents, and it had all of the comments and everything. It all looked perfectly neat. And then you can also, after that, export it as a PDF if you want, if you so wish, if you need something like that. So yeah, decide on a backup routine. You can also use something like Zapier, zapier.com, which allows you to set up triggers. So if you can say, whenever I create or update a document in Google Docs or Google Drive, you can have it copy it to another cloud service or something. You could also do something like that. And then optional, I have been really loving Google Writing Tracker, which is a set of Google App scripts by Jamie Rubin, and I linked them at the bottom of this super long blog post. There it is. So you can go down here. It tracks what you're writing in a particular folder, and then it will send you email updates at the end of the day saying how much you wrote, what you wrote, and it'll also save it all to a Google spreadsheet. So it's very, very cool. And there's also Track My Words, which is an add-on, which you can find all the add-ons if you go to add-ons up here, and then you can get add-ons or manage your add-ons. I have Track My Words here, so that tracks how many words per minute you write and how many words you write. I found it a bit distracting because I really like working full screen in Google Docs. So I found it a bit distracting to have a sidebar, but it's still very useful and very nice. So those are some optional options for tracking what you're writing, and I'm sure there are loads more if you look through the catalog on the add-ons. So let's get on to brainstorming and researching. I recommend you create a new document for your notes if you do want to keep your notes in Google Docs, but as you may have seen, it has definite advantages. And also for research, there are some very cool things you can do. So you can go to Tools and open the Research sidebar here, and this gives you several options for searching different things. You can search for images, you can search for scholar articles that you can cite, you can search for quotations, you can search the dictionary, so you can look up a word, you can search, as I said, your personal documents, and you can search for tables, which baffles me a bit, but I suppose it might be useful for some people. But so let's say the other day I was writing the story that was set in India, so I needed to research India. So I can actually also get that from the contextual menu, and I can say research India, and it will come up in the sidebar here. So you get your Google search results in here. You can't actually view them, you can't read them here. When you click one of these links, it does open it in another window or another browser tab. So I would have liked to have read it in the sidebar, but that's still really cool. So that's one thing you can do. If you want some images, for example, if you wanted like a map of India, as I did the other day, I can search for India map, and I can drag one of these in. Let's see, what about this one? And you'll notice that when you do drag it, it gives you a little footnote. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little footnote there, and it's at the bottom of the page. It's linked to where that image is from. So if you were just doing it for your own research, it wouldn't really matter where you got it from. But if you are using it as something like an ebook or something, then you would want to make sure that this was cited and that it was hopefully in the right license. And you can actually, if you click this little triangle here, you can actually choose to search for images that are free to use, share, or modify, even commercially. So that will give you some good ones. Here's one from Wikimedia that you could use, for example, and so on. So that's a really great option, and you can even choose your citation format, for goodness sake. How amazing is that? So that makes, I think, research pretty cool. And then you can also use, for example, let's do this again. Let's search for that, and then we can select quotations, quotes, and that will find some famous quotes. Here are some from Queen Victoria. The important thing is not what they think of me, but what I think of them. I'm assuming she's maybe talking about the mutiny. I don't know. But so, if you wanted a nice epigraph for the beginning of your book or the beginning of your chapter, it actually comes up with some really, really cool stuff. I'm not sure what sources it searches, but they're really pretty good. So you can do that. You can look up a word in the dictionary. You can look up. You can right-click and find it in the contextual menu as well. It's define important, for example, and then you can get the definition of important in the sidebar. So, I mean, some really cool stuff, I think. Just right within Google Docs, and I think it's what you would expect of a search engine. So those are some ideas for your brainstorming and research. You can also, we've talked about importing images. You can also use Google Draw to make some really quick sketches and mind maps. And this is so cool, I have to show you. So you go to Insert and click on Drawing. For example, quick mind map. If this loads, here we go. You can select a shape here. Let's say we want a rounded rectangle. You can draw it here. If we double click, we can add some text. Let's say India. And then more will give you some alignment options. Let's make it nice and neat. And then I think the easiest way to deal with this would be to go to click Control D or Command D. And that will just duplicate it. And then you can put in, I'm writing a steampunk story set in India, so of course there's opium involved. And then you can actually connect these two. So you can choose an angular connector or a curved connector. And when you hover over these, these little purple dots will appear, which will allow you to, once you click on one and drag it out, it'll just automatically snap to this other bubble. So, I mean, it's so simple to make really, really easy, quick mind maps like that, or flowcharts or anything of that sort. And then you just save and close, and it will just insert it into your document. So I think that is just such a neat thing to be able to do. I love mind maps and cluster diagrams and lists and all that kind of good stuff. So those are some ideas for brainstorming and research. And then you'll be ready to start your first draft. So I recommend starting that in a new document, so you don't have all the notes and stuff from your previous document cluttering it up. And as you can see, you can easily go use the personal research tool to then find the other documents that have your notes in it and so on, and refer to them very easily. It'll even search your Gmail. I mean, look at all this stuff in my inbox. So once you create that, you can do some really cool things. And this is my favorite thing to do, is live write to engage with your readers. And what I would do for that is, let's get rid of all this and pretend that this is our, where is the footnote there? There we go. So let's pretend that this is our story, okay? And we can start writing in here. So, chapter 1 and so on. And then we can click share. And this will allow us, if we click over here and get a shareable link, if we want to collaborate with someone, you can enter their email addresses here and you can choose what kind of privileges they have. But if you want to share the link with someone, what I would recommend is, if you know the people, if they're in your tribe, then you can select can comment, so that they can leave you comments. They can't actually edit your document, they can just comment. Or if you are sharing it on social media, I would recommend just choosing can view, and then people can't leave you comments. They can, I think they can still chat, but they can't leave you comments. So then you would just copy this link and put it in your Twitter, in your Facebook, and all that good stuff. Or you can send it to your mailing list if you have a mailing list, and then you can say, oh, I'm writing live, come and watch me, and people can hop on and they just view this document, and they can actually see you typing live, which is just so cool. If you, let's see. So here is actually, this anonymous narwhal has been sitting in my document for several days now. I think it's someone who's forgotten their browser window open maybe. But here's the cool thing. You can see they won't be allowed to edit. They might be able to comment, but you can see this is where their cursor is placed. Google Docs actually puts a little, what is it called? Like a name label at the top of the cursor. So when you hover over it, you can see who that is. And if she were able to, or he were able to edit this document, then you could see them typing from that cursor. So it's just so much fun to just kind of watch someone type, or to type along with them. That's what I recommend that my viewers do, is that they open up their own document and start writing with me, because it's nice to have a bit of company. But if you look at, this is my novel, one-page novel spreadsheet, and there's always some people hanging out here. So these are all people who are viewing this document at the moment. And the cool thing is that my user icon will appear up here when I'm viewing this document, because I'm the owner, and people will be able to see it, and I won't be anonymous, so I won't just be like a little animal face or something. And they will be able to click that icon and initiate a chat with me. So I can't at the moment chat with anyone because no one else is signed in. But if they were to click on my icon, then they would be asked to sign in with their Google username, and then they wouldn't be anonymous anymore, but a little chat window would open up at the bottom here, and I would be able to just exchange messages with them. And if anyone else decided to sign in, then they would join that same chat. It wouldn't be separate, okay? So it's like a communal chat as soon as you sign in with your Google username. So that is super cool. It's honestly one of my favorite things to do. And if you want to see it in action, you can follow me on Twitter, because I usually tweet out when I'm live writing, and then you can hop on and see how it works. if you're a bit nervous about it. I do feel kind of nervous about it when I'm doing it, but it's so much fun, and you get such great interaction with people and feedback. And what I do is when I'm writing, for example, this is a story I'm working on at the moment, I use, let me see if I can find one, I use square brackets to kind of chat with people, and I give people shout outs, and you know, if they should suggest something, I'll make a note of it so that I remember it for later, because you can't keep chat transcripts after the chat is over. So once you've closed the window, it's gone. But you know, if you make a little note of it there, and this is your first draft anyway, so you know, so you'll keep it for posterity. But it's just kind of nice having it in there. It's a memory of the time when you were writing this. So I really love that, and I found that my readers enjoy it as well. So what I would do is, once I had that shareable link, I would email it to my list saying I'm writing live, and then I would also share it on social media, and then I would chat with my followers. And it's you know, if you have a very lively chat, it's up to you if you're writing at the same time as you are chatting with people, or if you want to kind of leave the chat for a while and write and then go back and scroll up and read all the comments and reply to people. That's up to you. Or, you know, if you find it too disruptive, then don't do it, of course, if you don't like it. But I think it's a really fun way to use technology and engage with your writers and your readers, and see, you know, for people to see how you work and how your stories come about, and maybe to even shape the way that it does come about. So once you've finished your first draft in such lively manner, you can then save that first draft for a later reference. As I said, you would go in here, you would say File, make a copy, give it a name according to your convention. So you would change this to second draft, change your date, etc., and then click Save. And I also recommend, as I said, downloading it as a Microsoft Word document. And then you can let your list know, well, I've been working on this, I've made some changes. If you want to have a look at it, if you want to suggest anything else, I'd be happy to read your comments. And then you go through all the comments and make any edits that you want. So as I said, there are three different modes of interacting with the document. So if you're editing, this is me editing, it's just, you know, I have all the capabilities of everything. If I'm suggesting, so if I'm a beta reader, I would be able to suggest things. So, you know, if I went in here and I wanted to change this to, instead of spectacles, call them glasses. You can see it appears like this because it's a suggestion, it's not a final edit. Okay, so I can then, as the owner of this document, go through this and say, oh, okay, yeah, I like that. I can accept that suggestion, or I can reject it. So, you know, once you've finished a certain draft and everyone has made all the comments and you have made all the comments and edits that you need, you can go through those and accept, reject as you need, or resolve this comment that you've made yourself, and so on. And then once you have done those, you can save it as another draft, go through the same process. And then once you get to the final draft, I recommend just reading through it. And using reading mode is a brilliant way to do that. And of course, I mean, do this in other drafts as well, but in the final draft especially, I think the fact that you have a reading mode that kind of reformats it, that makes it neat and tidy, and, you know, even just moving the words around the page a little bit, shuffling them around, can help you spot mistakes, especially if you've, you know, put the same word in twice or something like that, or introduced typos during the editing process. What I do is I do this at every stage really. I start reading the manuscript chapter by chapter, and I'd read a chapter, I would make any notes that I need as I read that, and then I would sit down and I would edit it. But then I wouldn't go and necessarily you know, start doing further and further edits on that chapter. I would move on to the next chapter, because I think the important thing is to really get through the whole manuscript in each draft, not just to redraft the first bit and then redraft it again and again and again. So I think that's really important, and the reading mode really helps with that. So if you use the mobile, you can use mobile apps for it. There are some great Google Docs apps, but you can also, if you just click a link from, say, an email, then you can view it in the browser of your mobile device, and it will be in viewing mode. So that's very handy as well if you don't have the app, and I think it works great. So then I would share the link with beta readers and proofreaders, as I mentioned before. So I would just click share, and I would say they can comment with their suggestions. I would copy this link, I would send it out to them. And if you do have if you feel like you need some help with beta readers and automating the emails and things you send them, I will have, I think, a workshop on my blog very soon. So do keep an eye out for that. Then again, you would repeat the process, going through all the comments, accepting, rejecting them, making the edits, and so on. And then I just put this in so that you remember to thank your readers and your commenters and your beta readers and everyone. Just add a little acknowledgements page or section, just thanking them so that they know that their hard work wasn't in vain. And then you're ready for publication. So I would say make a copy of the final draft for reference. I also suggest you save it as a PDF because that can come in very handy. And again, save it as a Microsoft Word document. And you can tell I'm gearing this towards self-published authors. But I would say upload it to KDP. You can upload that straight to Kindle Direct Publishing and have it available on the Kindle within 24 hours. So amazing. But EPUB is a bit more tricky. The software I use is Scrivener. I love Scrivener, and I think it makes it probably the easiest out of all of these to format a nice EPUB, and then you can upload that to iBooks, Nook, and Kobo. And the final thing I recommend is that you create a sample for preview on your website or for your mailing list. And to do that, I would just make a copy of the final document, and then I would delete anything that you don't want to appear in your sample. So you'd probably want the sample to have the first chapter, for example. And then remember to put a sales or a download link at the end of your sample so that people know where to buy the ebook that they've just read the first chapter of and loved. If you look at my Kindle template, if you download it, I have I learned this trick from Nick Stevenson, and I think you can find him at yourfirst10kreaders.com, I believe. And that is just to put a link saying, if you want a further incentive to join, for example, the author mailing list, join it and you'll get another free ebook or something. So just put a link like that at the beginning and at the end of your sample, for example. And then add a footer with your copyright and website information so that people remember where they downloaded it from. And that's also very simple. You just go to Insert and Header or Footer, depending on what you want. And you can say, this is copyright the devil at HTTP, and so on. Okay, so that's really simple. You can format it however you want. And then you can download it as a PDF again and upload it to your Google Drive. That will allow you to use, if you're working on WordPress, for example, there's a really handy WordPress plugin called Google Docs Embedder, I believe. I think it's linked in the blog post, which does a really nice job of embedding PDF or other things from Google Drive. Or you can just link to it, get the link, and link it to your website or upload it or whatever you want. Another option is to file publish to the web and then embed. So that is right here. And you can link it or you can embed it. It's neither of them are the prettiest options, I have to say, but it will actually embed a live version. So it won't be updating as you write, but it will refresh whenever the reader refreshes the page. So if you do make updates, then you won't have to re-upload a PDF file or anything like that. So that is one other option. And then I would say, send the sample to your mailing list or put it on your website or whatever you want to do with it. You can upload it to different websites and that sort of thing. And then finally, don't forget, once you've been through the workflow, to make notes and refine it. Once you've realized what works, what doesn't work, don't forget to actually put it in your workflow so that you remember next time, because as much as you think you will remember it, you will forget it. So make a note and don't forget. So those are all the things that I think I'm going to cover in this video. Did I mention Fullscreen. Fullscreen is awesome if you're writing. The way I do it is I select fit here. It's a bit tricky if you have comments, but you can always zoom in a bit more so that you kind of push those to one side like that. And then you can select view full screen from here, and then you can, if you have Chrome, for example, you can go to view and enter presentation mode, and that gives you a lovely full screen view of your document and no distractions whatsoever. So that's how I really like to write, and you know, if there are more writing with me, then it's even more fun. And as I said, Google Docs does track your every keystroke. So there's this great plugin called Draftback that allows you, and you can see it in the blog post here, it allows you to embed an actual kind of video of you typing your documents. So that's another reason why you might want to keep it all in one single file. But I think that's the coolest thing. So I really love that as well. And if I've missed anything, you'll find it in this blog post. I think I've mentioned most of the features that I really, really like about it. And if you just do discover some that I've missed, please tweet me at Eva Deverell on Twitter. You can also find me on Facebook and everywhere else. But I really hope you found this workshop useful. And you really give Google Docs a try. It's a really wonderful piece of software. And again, if you do need some more help with beta readers and setting up email automations for them, then do stay tuned to the blog. I'm sure I'm going to have some pretty cool stuff about that soon. So thank you so much for your time, and go write right now.